The first time I realized my baby shower wasn't for me, I was standing in the middle of my sister's living room with a satin ribbon stuck to my palm, smiling so hard my cheeks ached, while my husband stared at the floor like it had opened up and swallowed his courage. Everyone was clapping, but it didn't sound like celebration. It sounded like they were trying to drown something out. The room was dressed up like a picture from a magazine: cream balloons, soft gold streamers, a dessert table lined with little frosted cupcakes that looked too perfect to eat. There was a vanilla candle burning somewhere, sweet and heavy, mixing with the smell of perfume and warm food, and that faint plastic scent that comes from brand new decorations. My sister, Betrayal, had planned everything down to the last napkin fold. She always did. Betrayal didn't do simple. She did staged. "Open the big one," somebody called. I held the gift in my lap, white wrapping paper with tiny gold stars, and the tag read, "To Baby Carter from Kayla." I didn't know a Kayla. I laughed anyway, the way women do when they're trying to be polite. The way you keep your voice light so nobody can accuse you of making a scene. "Oh, that's so sweet," I said, even though my mouth felt dry. Across the circle, a woman I'd never seen before leaned forward like she belonged there. Her hair was sleek, her makeup soft and expensive looking, and she wore a pale yellow dress that matched the shower colors so perfectly it made my stomach tighten. Not because she looked nice, because she looked planned. And when she smiled at my husband, Marcus, it wasn't the kind of smile you give a stranger at a party. It was familiar, private, like a shared joke with no words. Marcus didn't smile back. He swallowed, and his jaw flexed once like he was chewing something bitter. That's when Betrayal's voice floated over everybody else's, too bright, too steady. "Ah, Talia, don't you just love it?" she said. This is exactly how I pictured it. I looked at my sister. She was watching me like she was watching a performance she'd rehearsed. And all at once I had the strangest feeling, like I was standing in the wrong life. Like I'd walked into somebody else's story and hadn't been given the script. The baby kicked low in my belly, a slow roll as if even he was uneasy. I kept smiling. I kept breathing. And I untied the ribbon. Because that's what I did back then. I tried to make things work, even when my spirit was whispering that something wasn't right. A few weeks earlier, my life still felt normal, tired, swollen, and full of little aches, yes, but normal in the way I'd always prayed for. I was 7 months pregnant, moving slow in the mornings, my feet already puffy by lunchtime, my appetite changing by the hour. Some days I craved peach yogurt so badly I'd send Marcus to the store at 9 at night. Other days, the smell of eggs made me gag and I'd stand at the kitchen sink with the faucet running, trying to breathe through it like I was breathing through waves. Marcus would laugh, rub my back and call me Mama. "Baby Carter's got you on a schedule," he'd say, kissing my temple. And I believed him. I believed we were a team. We'd been married 4 years, together for 6. We weren't perfect, no couple is, but we had built a rhythm. Friday nights were takeout and a movie. Sundays were church with my auntie and sometimes dinner at Betrayal's if she was in one of her family bonding moods. Marcus worked long hours in logistics, the kind of job where his phone never stopped buzzing. I worked as a receptionist at a dental office, where the smell of mint and latex gloves followed me into my dreams. The pregnancy had softened me in ways I didn't expect. I cried at commercials. I held Marcus's hand in the grocery store and felt like the world was wide, but we had a small safe place inside it. Or so I thought. Betrayal had insisted on throwing my baby shower the minute she heard I was pregnant. "Don't even worry about it," she told me, waving her hand like she was brushing dust off a shelf. "You're going to be tired and I'm going to do it right. You deserve something beautiful." That sounded like love. It even felt like love at first. Betrayal and I were close in that complicated sister way. She was 3 years older, always the loud one, the one who walked into a room and made people turn. Growing up, she was the sister who took the last piece of cake, and then offered me a bite like she was doing me a favor. She'd borrow my clothes without asking, then get offended if I wanted them back. But she also defended me. She'd fight anybody who spoke harshly to me. If I cried, she'd show up with ice cream and a plan. Betrayal loved hard. She just loved controlling too. When I told her I wanted something small, just a few close family members, maybe a couple friends from work, she frowned like I'd offended her creativity. "Talia," she said, drawing my name out, "this is your first baby. You don't get a redo." "I know," I said carefully. I just don't want a bunch of people I don't know. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You'll know them by the time you're done, she replied. I should have pushed back harder. But pregnancy makes you pick your battles. Your back hurts, your patience runs thin, and sometimes you just want peace. So I let Betrayal plan. At first the signs were small, so small I blamed hormones. She started asking questions that didn't feel like baby shower questions. Mark is still working late? She asked one evening when I stopped by her place. Her townhouse was always spotless, like nobody actually lived there. Even her couch pillows sat up straight. She handed me a glass of sweet tea and watched me like she was assessing me. Yeah, I said. He's got a lot going on. She nodded slowly. And he's been supportive? That word landed strange in the air. Supportive. I laughed a little. Why wouldn't he be? Betrayal shrugged. Some men get weird when the attention shifts. Marcus isn't like that. That's what they all say, she murmured, and then she changed the subject so quickly it made me feel silly for even noticing. A few days later, she asked me to send her my guest list. I did. My auntie, my cousin Denise, 2 girlfriends from work, a couple church sisters, and Betrayal's best friend from college because I'd known her for years. Then Betrayal texted back. Add Marcus's people too. It's his baby shower as much as yours. I stared at my phone for a long moment. I didn't mind his family. His mother was sweet, his sister lived out of state, but Marcus wasn't exactly a bring my coworkers to a baby shower type. When I mentioned it to him later, he was in the kitchen rinsing a plate. The water ran loud, and the overhead light made a bright shine off the sink. Betrayal wants to invite your people, I said. He didn't look up. My people. Friends, coworkers, whoever. Marcus paused just a beat too long. Then he forced a little laugh. I don't really have anybody like that. Then why is she pushing it? He shrugged, still not meeting my eyes. She's just trying to make it nice. But his shoulders were tense. And when his phone lit up on the counter just for a second, I saw a name flash across the screen. Kayla Yellowheart. He snatched the phone so fast it was like a reflex. Too fast. I watched him, my heart doing that slow sinking thing. Who's Kayla? I asked, trying to sound casual, trying to keep my voice from shaking. Marcus blinked once. Twice. Then he smiled, quick and smooth like he'd practiced it. Work, he said. Just work stuff. Work stuff with a heart? He gave a small chuckle and leaned in to kiss my forehead. Babe, you're reading too much into it. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was finally reading what had been right in front of me. That night, when I climbed into bed, Marcus turned away from me like he was already asleep. The room was quiet except for the hum of the ceiling fan. I lay there with my hand on my belly, feeling my baby move, and I tried to tell myself I was safe. But deep down, something in me had started to listen. And it was saying very softly, "Pay attention, Talia. Pay attention." The next morning, Marcus acted like nothing happened. He made coffee, decaf for me, regular for him, and he stood behind me while I buttered toast, his hands resting on my hips like we were still the same people we'd been a week ago. The kitchen smelled like warm bread, and that cinnamon candle my auntie swore kept a home peaceful. You good? He asked, voice soft. I nodded because that was easier than the truth. I'm fine, I said. Just tired. Pregnancy tired, he murmured, kissing the side of my head. And for a moment I almost let myself settle into that. Almost let his gentleness erase the little flare of fear I'd felt the night before. But then his phone buzzed on the counter again, face down this time, and he shifted his body just enough to block my view of it, like he was shielding something precious. It wasn't what he did. It was how automatic it was. Like his body had learned the movement before his mind could think. Work been crazy? I asked, watching him carefully. Yeah, he said too quickly. We got a shipment delay. Everybody's stressed. He took his phone and slid it into his pocket before the screen even finished lighting up. I hated myself for it, but I started doing that thing women do when they don't want to look crazy, collecting tiny details like I could stack them up and make them prove something. Marcus started showering the minute he got home, like he didn't want to sit down and talk first. He started bringing his phone into the bathroom, setting it on the sink where the steam would fog the mirror. He bought a new cologne. Not expensive, just something from the drugstore, but I noticed it because it wasn't the scent I'd picked out for him last Christmas. This one was sharper, cleaner, like fresh-cut lime. It filled up the hallway after he left, lingering like someone had just passed through the house. The first time I mentioned it, he smiled. Just wanted to switch it up, he said, shrugging like it didn't matter. But it did. Because I knew Marcus. I knew the man who would wear the same old hoodie until the cuffs frayed, who didn't switch it up, unless someone made him feel like he should. And then there was Betrayal. Betrayal became busy. Not the regular busy she always claimed to be, the kind where she'd leave you on read for a few hours and come back with a meme. This was different. This was selective. When I asked her simple questions about the shower, what time, what I should wear, whether I needed to bring anything, she answered like I was bothering her. Just show up, she said one night over the phone. I could hear typing in the background, her nails tapping hard like rain on a window. You don't need to worry about anything. I'm not trying to worry, I said, keeping my voice calm. I'm just asking. Because you don't trust me, she snapped, then softened instantly. I'm sorry. I'm just stressed. I want it to be perfect. Perfect. That word again. It made my shoulders tighten. A few days later, I stopped by Betrayal's townhouse to drop off a box of little honey jars I'd made as favors. My auntie had helped me. Tiny glass jars with gold lids twined tied around the neck, and a little label that said, Sweet Baby Carter. Betrayal opened the door with her phone pressed to her ear. I told you she can't be late, she was saying, voice low but sharp. No, not the front door. Use the side, less awkward. She froze when she saw me. Her eyes flicked to my belly first, like she remembered I was fragile, and then to my face like she had to decide what version of herself to be. Talia, she said, too bright. Hey girl. She covered the phone. Hold on. I stepped inside, hugging the box close. The air in her house smelled like lemon cleaner and something sweet, like pastry. Her dining table was covered with baby shower stuff. Gift bags, ribbon spools, stacks of little cards. Those are cute, she said, nodding at the honey jars. Yeah, I smiled. Auntie said honey brings blessings. Betrayal hummed like she wasn't listening. Her eyes kept darting back toward the table like she didn't want me to see something. Who were you talking to? I asked lightly, setting the box down. Nobody, she said too fast. Then, like she remembered she had to sound normal, she added. Just the bakery. I didn't push. But while she walked to the kitchen to grab scissors, I let my eyes drift over the table. There were place cards, little folded cards with names written in Betrayal's tidy handwriting. Denise. Aunt Sharon. Mrs. Holloway. Jasmine from church. And then my gaze snagged on one that didn't belong. Kayla. My fingers went cold. It was written the same way as the others, no hesitation, no question mark. Like Kayla had been on the list from the start. My heart started to beat heavy, thumping low in my chest. I picked up the card before I could stop myself. Behind it was another one. Marcus. Not Marcus plus Talia. Not the Carters. Just Marcus. A separate seat. A separate place at the table. Like this wasn't my shower. Like it was his. Betrayal came back into the room with scissors in hand, and her eyes snapped straight to my fingers. What are you doing? She asked. Her voice wasn't playful. It was warning. My throat felt tight. I saw this. Who's Kayla? Betrayal's face didn't change much, but her pupils did. That tiny quick widening people get when they're caught. Oh, she said, waving her hand. That's just, one of Marcus's coworkers. He asked if she could come. He asked. I repeated, the word tasting bitter. Yeah, Betrayal said like it was obvious. He's excited. And it's not a big deal, Talia. It's just a baby shower. I stared at her. My sister, who used to inspect my friends like she was a bouncer at a club, was suddenly casual about a stranger attending my most personal moment. Something didn't add up. Marcus told me he didn't have anyone to invite, I said quietly. Betrayal scoffed, cutting a ribbon too hard like the satin had offended her. Marcus doesn't tell you everything. Men don't. That landed like a slap, not because it was true or false, but because it sounded like she wanted me to accept it, to normalize it, to swallow it. I set the place card down with careful fingers. Okay, I said. I don't want strangers all up in my pictures. That's all. Betrayal smiled, but it was thin. Then take pictures with who you want. She turned away, ending the conversation the way she always did when she didn't like where it was going. by moving her hands faster and pretending the moment was over. But it wasn't over inside me. On the drive home, my palms stayed sweaty against the steering wheel. The radio played soft R&B, the kind of music that usually soothed me, but my thoughts kept looping. Kayla. A heart emoji in his phone. A place card on my sister's table. Marcus acting like he didn't know her. Brielle acting like it was nothing. When I walked into my house, the living room felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath. Marcus wasn't home yet. His absence felt louder than noise. I went into our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, looking at the small pile of baby clothes I'd been washing and folding. Tiny socks, a little onesie with blue whales on it. I pressed a hand to my belly. Baby, I whispered. If something is wrong, I need to know. I need to be strong. The baby shifted, a gentle nudge like an answer, and my eyes filled up. Not because I wanted to cry. Because I didn't. Because I was tired of being the woman who stayed sweet so everyone else could stay comfortable. That night, when Marcus came home, he kissed my cheek and asked how my day was. Fine, I said, watching him closely. Brielle's really going all out. Yeah, he said, slipping off his shoes. His phone was already in his hand. Yeah, she said one of your coworkers is coming. Marcus didn't pause. Not at first. Then his thumb froze on the screen. Who? He asked, still not looking at me. I kept my voice level like I was asking about the weather. Kayla. Marcus's shoulders rose and fell with a slow breath. He finally looked up and his smile was wrong. Too careful. Oh, he said. Yeah, she's cool. She asked about the baby a lot. He made it sound like he was doing me a favor, letting someone care. I nodded slowly like I accepted it, but inside something hardened. That night I didn't confront him. I didn't accuse. I didn't cry in front of him. I waited. Because I realized something in that quiet, ticking dark bedroom while he pretended to sleep beside me. If two people were hiding something, the truth wouldn't come from me begging for it. It would come from them getting comfortable. And if my sister had inserted herself into my marriage in a way I didn't understand yet, then I needed to stop being the only honest one in the room. I needed to watch. I needed to listen. And I needed to choose the right moment because I was bringing a child into this world, and I wasn't going to bring him into confusion. The baby shower was in 3 days. And I promised myself silently that I was going to walk into that room with my eyes open. The day of the baby shower, I took longer than usual to get dressed. Not because I wanted to look perfect, pregnancy had already humbled me in that department, but because I was trying to calm the feeling in my chest that kept rising like a warning. I stood in front of the mirror with my hands on my belly and studied my own face. My cheeks were fuller. My lips looked dry no matter how much gloss I put on. My eyes, normally soft, looked sharper, like they'd learned something my mouth hadn't said out loud yet. I chose a simple blue dress, the kind that fell gently over my stomach, and I wore the pearl earrings my auntie gave me when I got married. A woman should have something on her that reminds her who she is, Auntie always said. In the car, Marcus drove like he always did, one hand on the wheel, one on his phone at red lights. You gonna put that thing down? I asked, trying to keep my tone light. He laughed without humor. It's just work. I watched the road pass by, the late afternoon sun turning everything warm and golden, like it was trying to make this day feel peaceful. But Marcus's knee bounced the whole drive. When we pulled up to Brielle's townhouse, I could already hear the noise. Music through the walls, laughter spilling out whenever the door opened. Brielle's front porch was wrapped in white tulle, and there was a balloon arch in cream and gold that looked like it had been installed by professionals. Lord, Marcus muttered under his breath. She did the most. I looked at him. You're surprised. He forced a smile. Not really. We walked up the steps together, and I tried to focus on the normal things. The scent of somebody grilling in a nearby yard, the distant sound of kids playing, the feel of my sandals tight against my swollen feet. Brielle opened the door before we could knock, like she'd been watching through the peephole. There's my mama-to-be, she sang, wrapping her arms around me. She smelled like perfume and hairspray, like she'd been moving fast all day. Then she hugged Marcus too tight, lingering, the kind of hug that looked affectionate but felt possessive, like she was claiming him in front of me. You made it, she said, stepping back. Come on, come on. Everybody's been waiting. That was the first thing that felt off. Waiting. Like the room had been prepared for a moment, not a person. Inside, the living room was full. More people than I expected. More voices, more faces I didn't recognize. The music was low, a gentle playlist of old-school love songs, but it couldn't cover the buzz of conversation. I spotted my auntie near the couch, dressed in her Sunday best even though it was Saturday, a wide-brimmed hat sitting proud on her head. She waved at me and smiled, the kind of smile that settled my spirit just a little. "Look at you, baby," she said when I reached her. "Glowing." "I'm sweating," I whispered, and she chuckled, squeezing my hand. My cousin Denise was there too, already holding a plate of food. Two of my work friends, Lena and Mariah, stood near the window, pointing at the diaper cake and laughing. For a moment I let myself breathe. Maybe I really was overthinking. Maybe Kayla was just a coworker. Maybe my sister had just gotten carried away with planning. Then I saw her. Kayla. She wasn't standing off to the side like a guest who felt unsure. She was near the dessert table like she belonged there, like she'd arranged it herself. Her pale yellow dress matched the shower colors so perfectly it felt intentional, and her nails were done in that same soft cream shade as the balloons. When she turned, her eyes landed on Marcus, and her face lit up, not with polite recognition, with relief, with warmth, like a person seeing someone they'd been missing. Marcus's whole body tightened beside me. It was subtle, just the way his shoulders lifted and his hand shifted in his pocket, but it was enough. Brielle's voice cut through the room. "Oh, there she is." She didn't say it about me. She said it about Kayla. Brielle walked over, linking her arm through Kayla's like they were old friends. "Talia," Brielle called, smiling wide. "Come meet Kayla. She's been dying to see you." Kayla stepped forward and held out her hand, and when I shook it, her grip was confident. Her perfume hit me, sweet, floral, expensive. "Hi," she said softly. "I've heard so much about you." I stared at her for half a second too long. Because who says that to a stranger at a baby shower? "Heard so much." From who? Marcus stood just behind me, too quiet. I smiled the way I'd taught myself to smile in uncomfortable situations. The smile that kept people from accusing you of being bitter. "That's nice," I said. "Thank you for coming." Kayla's eyes flicked down to my belly. "He's beautiful," she whispered. "Not the baby. Not your baby. Just he." Like she'd been imagining him too. My stomach tightened. Brielle clapped her hands. Okay. Everybody gather around. We're about to start the games." The party moved like a tide. People shifting toward the center, grabbing seats, laughing as they sat. Someone handed me a sash that said "Mommy to be" in glitter letters. Brielle insisted on pinning it across my chest herself, tugging it tight like she wanted it to sit just right. "There," she said, stepping back. "Perfect." Kayla sat closer than my own friends did. Close enough that her knee almost touched the coffee table in front of me. Marcus sat on the other side of the room. Not next to me. Not behind me. Not even close enough to casually touch my shoulder. He sat near Brielle, where she had made a space for him like he'd been assigned. I glanced at him and he wouldn't meet my eyes. A game started. Guess the baby food. People laughed, gagged dramatically, made jokes. I laughed too on cue, but my attention kept drifting. Because I kept noticing how Brielle moved. How she hovered around Kayla. How she checked her phone and then checked Kayla's face, like they were coordinating something. At one point, Brielle brought out a stack of little prize bags and handed one straight to Kayla. "You didn't even play," Denise teased. Brielle's laugh sounded too loud. "She helped set up." Kayla smiled modestly like she was supposed to. I looked at my sister and I saw it then, the pride in Brielle's eyes. Not pride like, "I'm happy for my little sister." Pride like, "I pulled this off." The gift opening started, and the women gathered around me in a circle. Tissue paper piled up at my feet. My auntie handed me a glass of water every few gifts, reminding me softly to breathe. Then Brielle placed a gift on my lap. A big one. "Open this one next," she said, voice bright. "It's special." The wrapping paper was white with tiny gold stars, and the ribbon was satin, tied in a neat bow that looked practiced. The tag read, "To Baby Carter from Kayla." I held it there, my fingers suddenly clumsy. "Ah," Mariah said from work. "That's cute." I looked up. Kayla's eyes were on me, steady and eager, like she wanted to see my reaction more than anybody else did. Marcus's chair scraped slightly across the floor somewhere behind the circle. I couldn't see him, but I could feel him. That tight energy. That dread. I forced my smile to stay in place and untied the ribbon slowly. Inside was a baby blanket, cream-colored, embroidered with the name. Not Baby Carter. Not Welcome Baby. A name. Mason. My breath caught in my throat. I blinked, thinking maybe I was seeing wrong. Maybe my eyes were tired. But the letters were clear, thick, dark thread. Mason. That wasn't the name Marcus and I had chosen. We hadn't even told anyone the name we were considering. We'd kept it private because we wanted something that felt like ours. I lifted the blanket slightly, trying to keep my hands steady. The room quieted in that natural way it does when people sense something delicate. Kayla's voice came soft. I hope you like it. Brielle leaned forward, smiling too wide. Isn't it beautiful? My tongue felt heavy. I looked at Brielle. Why does it say Mason? The air in the room changed. Not dramatically. Nobody gasped, nobody screamed. But the laughter drained out like someone had turned a faucet off. Brielle's smile twitched. Kayla's eyes flicked toward Marcus. And that's when I knew, before anyone said anything else, that the name wasn't a mistake. It was a message. A sign between people who had been talking behind my back. My auntie's hand found my shoulder, firm and warm. Talia, she murmured softly, like she was anchoring me. I swallowed hard and forced a small laugh, the kind that sounds normal to people who don't know you well. Oh, I said carefully, holding the blanket up. It's pretty. Brielle let out a breath like she'd been holding it. Kayla smiled, and there was something in it that made my skin crawl. Not cruelty exactly. More like confidence. Like she believed she had already won something. I folded the blanket neatly and set it beside me, then reached for the next gift with hands that felt like they belonged to somebody else. But inside my chest, something was cracking and hardening at the same time. Because I understood the truth in a way that didn't need proof yet. This shower wasn't just off. It was staged. And I was sitting in the middle of it like the last person allowed to know. I don't know how long I sat there holding myself together, but I remember the way the room sounded after that. Like people were trying to restart a party that had stalled. Somebody cracked a joke too loud. Somebody else laughed too late. Tissue paper kept tearing, but the sound felt sharp now, like it didn't belong. I opened a few more gifts on autopilot. Tiny diapers, onesies with little dinosaurs, a stack of burp cloths. And I thanked each person with the same soft voice I used at work when a patient was nervous. My smile stayed. My eyes stayed dry. My hands kept moving. But my mind had gone somewhere else entirely. Mason. I kept seeing the name like it was stitched into my eyelids. Brielle floated around the circle, narrating the gifts like a host on a game show, her voice sugary and bright. And this one is from Aunt Sharon. Look at that little bear, she squealed. Then she leaned in close to me, her breath warm against my ear. Don't overthink, okay? She said it like advice, but it landed like a threat. I turned my head slightly. I'm not overthinking, I said calmly. Brielle held my gaze for a beat too long, then straightened up and clapped again. Okay, everybody. Next game. Next game. Like she could keep moving the day forward fast enough that I wouldn't stop and look around. The next game was one of those couple games. Who knows mom best? Where the partner answers questions about the mom-to-be. Brielle handed the little paddles out, laughing. Marcus, she called. Come on, baby daddy, get up here. People cheered, and Marcus stood slowly, his smile tight, his eyes darting like he was scanning for exits. Then Brielle added, too casually, Kayla, come help me keep score. Kayla stood immediately, like she'd been waiting for her cue. She stepped beside Brielle at the kitchen island, holding the clipboard Brielle handed her, and their shoulders brushed like it was nothing. I watched the way Brielle leaned toward her, whispering something with a small grin. Kayla nodded and smiled, and I felt my own body go cold again, not from shock this time but from clarity. This wasn't just about Marcus. This was about Brielle deciding she had the right to rewrite my life. The questions started. What's Talia's favorite craving? Brielle read out loud. Pickles. Denise called, laughing. Marcus lifted his paddle and hesitated. I stared at him, willing him silently to say the truth. Peaches, he finally said, and a few people clapped. That was right. But then the next question came. What name did Marcus suggest first for the baby? My throat tightened so fast it felt like someone had pulled a string. That was a private conversation. One of those late-night talks Marcus and I had in bed, whispering names like they were prayers. Marcus's face went pale. He looked at Betrayal and something flickered between them, an unspoken signal. Betrayal's smile stayed fixed, but her eyes were sharp. Answer, she sang. Don't be scared. Marcus swallowed. I don't remember. A few people laughed, but it sounded forced. I lifted my eyes to Kayla. She wasn't laughing. She was watching Marcus like she was waiting for him to say the name. Betrayal leaned into the mic voice again, joking. You better remember if you want to keep sleeping in your own bed. More laughter. More noise. But I could feel my auntie's hand on my shoulder again, steady and grounding. She didn't squeeze. She just stayed there like a quiet promise. The game moved on, and Betrayal finally dropped the name question like she'd gotten what she wanted, like she'd poked the bruise and confirmed it was there. When the room dispersed toward food, I rose slowly, my back stiff, my feet aching. I need the restroom, I said to my auntie. She stood with me immediately. I'm coming too. I'm okay, I said gently. My auntie looked at my face and didn't argue, but her eyes stayed on me like she was memorizing my expression. I walked down the hallway with one hand on my belly, keeping my steps careful. Betrayal's townhouse was quiet back there. Away from the party noise, the carpet soft under my feet. The bathroom door was closed, so I waited. And that's when I heard voices. Betrayal's voice first, low and patient. You can't be acting like that, she hissed. Kayla's voice answered, even lower. I'm not acting. I'm nervous. You're nervous. Betrayal scoffed. Girl, this is the easy part. She's slow. She's not going to do anything. There was a pause, and then Betrayal said something that made the air leave my lungs. He told you, didn't he? He's leaving after the baby comes. He's not going to look like the villain. Kayla murmured. He said he's trying to do it the right way. Betrayal made a sound like she was rolling her eyes. The right way is not letting her catch you before we're ready. Keep your face calm. Smile. Be sweet. Kayla sighed. And the blanket, was that too much? Betrayal's voice softened like she was coaching. No. It was perfect. Planted it. Now when he says the name, she's going to think he got it from you. Kayla laughed quietly, and it wasn't joyful. It was tense. She asked about it. And you didn't say anything stupid, right? No. Good, Betrayal said. Listen, Marcus is weak. He needs pressure. If he feels guilty, he'll crawl back to her. But if he feels like you're his piece, he'll choose you. I leaned back against the wall, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My sister. My own blood. Talking about my marriage like it was a project. Talking about my baby like he was a chess piece. My hand went to my mouth and for a second I thought I might throw up. But then something else rose up inside me, quiet and steady. Not rage. Not even pain. A kind of cold determination. Because I had just heard enough. This wasn't suspicion anymore. This was confirmation. I pulled my phone from my purse with slow fingers and pressed record without thinking too hard. Just enough to catch what I could through the door. Betrayal's voice floated again. After today, you need to stop texting him so much. She's watching. Kayla. He texts me first. Betrayal. Then you let him. But don't get greedy. Let him feel like he's in control. The bathroom door clicked from the inside and I froze. I stopped recording and shoved the phone back into my purse like it burned. The door opened and Kayla stepped out first. She looked startled to see me there, her eyes widening just slightly. Oh, sorry, she said quickly. I didn't know you were waiting. It's okay, I replied, my voice calm enough to surprise even me. Go ahead. Kayla walked past, her perfume trailing behind her like a ribbon. Betrayal followed, fixing her lipstick in the little compact mirror in her hand. When she saw me, she smiled, too bright, too smooth. There you are, she said. You okay? You been gone a minute. I'm fine, I said, meeting her eyes. Just needed a minute. Betrayal studied me, searching for cracks. You sure? I'm sure. For a beat, neither of us moved. The air between us felt tight, like a stretched rubber band. Then Betrayal's smile sharpened. Good, she said lightly. Because we're about to cut the cake. She walked away, heels clicking, And I stood there for a second longer, letting my breath settle. When I finally went into the bathroom and closed the door, I locked it. I stared at myself in the mirror. My face looked the same, but my eyes didn't. I looked like a woman who had been given a truth she couldn't unknow. I washed my hands even though they weren't dirty. Just to have something to do, just to feel the water and hear it run, something normal. Then I reached into my purse and looked at my phone. The recording was there. Not perfect. Muffled in places. But Brielle's voice was clear enough. Words like leaving after the baby comes and she's slow and planted it. My stomach turned. I stopped myself from crying by doing the only thing that worked for me in moments like that. I made a plan. I walked back into the party with my head high, smiling like the woman Brielle expected me to be. I hugged my auntie. I thanked people for gifts. I posed for pictures. And all the while I watched Marcus. He avoided Kayla, but not in a way that looked innocent. He avoided her like someone avoiding temptation in public. Like someone trying to keep a secret from spilling. When the shower ended, Brielle insisted on packing my car herself, placing the gifts in the trunk with quick, aggressive movements. Kayla stood nearby, pretending to help, her hands hovering like she didn't want to touch anything that belonged to me. Marcus kept glancing at his phone. Brielle kissed my cheek. "See? Beautiful," she said. "I told you I had it." I smiled back. "You sure did." On the drive home, Marcus reached for my hand. I let him hold it. His palm was damp. "You quiet," he said. "I'm tired," I answered. He nodded, relieved by the easy explanation. But inside I was already choosing my next step. Because I wasn't going to confront Marcus in private where he could lie, twist, deny, and make me feel crazy. And I wasn't going to argue with Brielle in a kitchen where she could cry and turn it into sister drama. No, if they wanted to stage my life, then I was going to take control of the stage. And I was going to do it with one message. One message that would make it impossible for them to keep acting like I was the last to know. That night, after we unloaded the gifts, Marcus carried the big bags into the nursery like a man trying to prove something without saying it out loud. "I'll organize this tomorrow," he said, stacking boxes too neatly, like order could fix a mess he didn't want to face. I stood in the doorway and watched him for a moment. The nursery was still half finished. Paint samples on the wall, a crib in a box, my folded baby clothes sitting in little piles that smelled like lavender detergent. Should have felt like hope. Instead, it felt like I was watching a stranger pretend to be my husband. Marcus glanced back at me. "You sure you're okay? You looked tense at the shower." "I'm pregnant," I said simply. "Tense comes with the territory." He gave a little laugh, relieved, like I'd handed him an excuse he could live inside. "Yeah," he said. "True." Then he reached into his pocket for his phone, and his eyes dropped to the screen. That instinct again. That reflex. He'd rather look at that phone than look at me. "I'm going to take a shower," he said quickly, already turning away. "Okay," I replied. When the bathroom door closed, the house felt like it exhaled. I walked into the kitchen, set my purse on the table, and pulled out my phone with a steadier hand than I expected. The recording was still there. Brielle's voice, clear enough to cut. "She's slow. She's not going to do anything." I stared at those words in my mind, and something in me settled into a quiet certainty. They had mistaken my peace for weakness. They had mistaken my softness for foolishness. I wasn't going to scream or throw things or drive myself into early labor trying to wrestle truth out of people who were trained to lie. I was going to let them talk. In writing, where they couldn't rewrite it later. I walked into the living room and sat down slowly, easing my back against the couch cushion. The shower gifts were piled near the wall, bright and cheerful like a bad joke. Somewhere down the hallway, the water ran and ran, and the ceiling fan above me made a steady rhythmic click, like a clock reminding me time didn't stop for heartbreak. I opened my contacts and created a new group message. I named it, "Baby Carter Thank You Notes." Then I added the people that mattered, the people whose eyes I trusted. My Auntie Sharon, my cousin Denise, Marcus's mother Linda, Brielle, Marcus, and yes, Kayla. Because if Kayla could sit at my baby shower like she belonged there, then she could sit in a group message like she belonged there too. Before I hit send, I paused. My thumb hovered. I felt that old instinct, the one I'd been trained with as a girl. Don't embarrass the family. Handle it quietly. Protect the man's reputation. Keep your home together at any cost. Then I placed my hand over my belly and felt my baby shift, slow and steady. And another instinct, deeper than tradition, deeper than fear, rose up in me. Protect your child. I typed carefully, keeping my tone warm, harmless, sweet. Hi everyone. Thank you again for celebrating baby Carter today. I'm starting my thank you cards this week. Can you all reply here with your mailing address so I don't miss anyone? Also, if you took photos/videos, please send them to me. Love y'all. White heart. I stared at the message a moment, read it twice, made sure it sounded like the kind of woman Betrayal thought I was. Then I pressed send. The bubbles started popping up almost immediately. Denise replied first because Denise never wasted time. Girl, I got you. I'll text you my address. You look so pretty today. Auntie followed with her address and a heart. Marcus's mother, Linda, replied next. Of course, sweetheart. I'll send mine. The shower looked lovely from the photos. I'm sorry I couldn't stay long. Who all was there? Then Betrayal chimed in. Yes. I'll send you the photo link too. It was perfect. And then, like a match to dry grass, Linda replied again. Wait. Who is Kayla? I sat very still. The shower water stopped down the hallway. I could hear Marcus moving around in the bathroom, a towel dragging across skin. Betrayal's typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Kayla's bubbles appeared too, then vanished like she was deciding whether to speak. Marcus's bubbles popped up for a second, then stopped. Linda's message sat there like a lit candle in a dark room. Who is Kayla? Betrayal answered first. Kayla is one of Marcus's co-workers. She's sweet. She helped with setup. I watched the words. Simple. Clean. Carefully chosen. Linda didn't respond right away. Kayla finally sent a message. Hi Mrs. Walker. I'm Kayla. Congratulations on the baby. Her tone was polite, almost timid, like she was trying to look innocent in front of a mother. Marcus finally replied. Hey Mom. Yeah, Kayla works with me. He added a thumbs up. A thumbs up. Like this was nothing. Like my life was a casual group chat. I didn't reply immediately. I let the silence sit. I let the discomfort do its work. Then I typed the second message, the one I'd been holding since the blanket. I kept it gentle, curious, almost playful. Also, quick question. Someone gave baby a blanket embroidered with Mason. It's beautiful, but Marcus and I haven't shared any names. I just want to make sure I don't mix up thank you notes and keepsakes. Kayla, was that from you? My heart didn't race when I hit send. It slowed. Because I knew, no matter what they said next, somebody would have to explain why my husband's coworker felt close enough to embroider a name we hadn't announced. The typing bubbles started again. Betrayal's appeared first, aggressive in their on and off rhythm. Kayla's appeared and stayed longer this time. Marcus's didn't appear at all. Denise sent a little eyes emoji and then deleted it. Auntie didn't say a word, but I knew she was watching, reading, praying. Kayla replied. Yes, that was from me. I'm sorry if it was too much. Marcus mentioned he liked that name. I thought it would be special. I stared at the screen until the words stopped moving. There it was. Not proof of sex. Not proof of hotel rooms. But proof of intimacy. Proof that my husband had been giving her something that was ours. Linda responded quickly. Marcus mentioned a baby name to a coworker? Why? Betrayal jumped in like she was putting out a fire. It's not that deep. Marcus just talks. Kayla was being thoughtful. Then Marcus finally typed. Y'all doing too much. It's just a blanket. I could almost hear his voice when I read it, sharp, defensive, trying to make the problem the conversation, not the betrayal. Linda replied again, and her message didn't have any softness in it now. Marcus, you are married. Talia is pregnant. Just a blanket is not an answer. The house felt suddenly small. The air felt thick. Down the hallway, the bathroom door opened. Marcus's footsteps approached, slow and cautious, like he could sense the shift in the room without hearing it. He walked into the living room rubbing his hair with a towel, then froze when he saw me sitting there with my phone in my hand and my face calm. What is that? He asked, voice tight. I held my phone up slightly so he could see the group chat name. Thank you notes, I said. His eyes flicked over my screen. His face changed, color draining, jaw clenching, that old habit of trying to swallow panic before it showed. You put my mom in a group chat? he hissed like that was the crime. I put everybody who celebrated our baby, I replied, voice even, including the woman who embroidered a name on my child's blanket. Marcus took a step toward me, lowering his voice. Talia, not like this. I looked up at him. I didn't see a monster. I saw a man who thought he could manage 2 lives as long as I stayed quiet. I'm not yelling, I said softly. I'm not cussing you out. I'm not throwing your things in the yard. I lifted my phone again, calm as a Sunday morning. I'm just asking questions in front of people who love me. His towel slipped slightly from his hands. He gripped it again like he needed something to hold. On my phone, Brielle's typing bubbles appeared once more. Talia, call me. Now. I stared at that message and smiled, small, private, bitter. Because there it was. The instinct to pull me back into the shadows. To make it private again. To make it controllable. I didn't call. Instead, I typed one more message into the group chat, and I made sure my words stayed clean and clear. No insults, no names, no mess. Just truth. I won't argue in this chat. I'm tired and I need peace for my baby. Marcus, Brielle, both of you will come to Auntie Sharon's tomorrow after church so we can talk like adults. Linda, Denise, please be there too. Marcus's eyes widened. You're dragging your auntie into this? I stood up slowly, one hand supporting my back, the other resting on my belly. I'm bringing elders, I said quietly, because I'm not doing this alone. Marcus opened his mouth like he wanted to say something sharp, something that would put me back in my place. But then his phone buzzed. He looked down, and whatever he saw on that screen made his shoulders sag. He didn't have to tell me. I already knew. Brielle and Kayla were calling him, trying to get ahead of what I just set in motion. Marcus looked back at me, and for the first time that day he looked afraid. Not of losing me, of being seen. That night Marcus didn't sleep. Neither did I. He paced the bedroom like a man walking the edges of a cliff, picking up his phone, putting it down, sighing, rubbing his face. He tried to talk twice, soft at first, then sharp when soft didn't work. Talia, you're making this bigger than it needs to be, he said, standing near the dresser. I stayed in bed, propped up on pillows, one hand on my belly, the other resting on the blanket that said Mason folded neatly on the nightstand like evidence. I didn't make it bigger, I said. I just stopped making it smaller. He stared at me like he didn't recognize that version of me. You want to do this in front of everybody? He asked. I blinked slowly. You did it behind everybody. That was the first time his face cracked. Not into guilt, not fully, just into something like anger at being cornered. He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, then stopped. Because arguing would mean answering questions. And answering questions would mean telling the truth. So he did what Marcus always did when he couldn't win with logic. He tried to win with fatigue. You need rest, he said, softer. For the baby. I needed honesty, I replied. For the baby. He didn't respond to that. He only sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, elbows on his knees, head down like a man rehearsing a speech. Then his phone lit up again. He stepped into the hallway to answer it, and I didn't have to follow him to know who it was. Brielle. Kayla. Both of them, trying to manage the fire before it reached the curtains. I lay there listening to his muffled voice through the wall, low, urgent, and the house felt like a shell. Quiet, fragile. Like one loud sound could crack it. I didn't cry that night. Not because I wasn't hurt. Because I was focused. When morning came, I moved slow and steady. I made oatmeal that tasted like cardboard and forced myself to eat a few bites. I took a warm shower and stood under the water until my shoulders loosened. I picked out my church dress, soft navy, and I braided my hair back so my face was clear. If my sister wanted a performance, I was going to give her one. Just not the one she wrote. At church, people smiled and touched my belly and said things like, "Any day now." "And you're glowing, honey." The choir sang and the organ filled the room, deep and trembling, like it could reach into your chest and rearrange your heart. Marcus sat beside me, stiff as a board, his hand occasionally touching my knee like he wanted to prove we were fine. I let him. Not because I believed him. Because I wanted him to feel, for once, what it was like to sit in public with a secret crawling under your skin. Brielle arrived late, of course, and slid into the pew behind us in a swirl of perfume and confidence. When service ended, she came up smiling, hugging people, acting like she was the definition of family. She hugged me last. Her arms were tight, and her mouth was near my ear when she whispered, "We need to talk alone." I leaned back just enough to see her eyes. "We will. At Auntie's." Her smile stayed, but the muscles around it strained. "Talia, don't do this." I spoke softly, almost gentle. "You should have thought about that when you called me slow." Brielle's eyes flashed. Just for a second. Then she smoothed her face like she was ironing a wrinkle. "I didn't," she started. I raised my hand slightly, not dramatic, just a small boundary. "Not here." Marcus cleared his throat like he wanted to step in, to manage us the way he always did. But Auntie Sharon appeared beside me, as if she'd been summoned by the shift in air. Auntie was the kind of woman who didn't have to raise her voice to quiet a room. She wore a cream suit with a brooch pinned at her collar, and her Bible was tucked under her arm like a shield. "Everybody to my house," she said simply. Not asking. Telling. And something about her tone made Marcus straighten up and say, "Yes, ma'am," like he was 12 again. Auntie Sharon's house always smelled like comfort and caution at the same time. Pine sol on the floors, onions and bell peppers cooking down in a pot, and that faint scent of lotion and old wood. By the time we arrived, she already had sweet tea made in glasses set out like she'd been preparing for this all week. Denise came too, sliding in quietly, eyes wide but mouth shut. Linda arrived 10 minutes later, her face set hard, her purse hugged close to her side like armor. She didn't hug Marcus when she walked in. She looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. "Sit," Auntie Sharon said, pointing. We sat in the living room, me on the couch, Marcus in the chair opposite, Brielle on the love seat with her legs crossed tight, Denise perched on the edge of a dining chair, and Linda standing at first because her body refused to relax. Auntie Sharon stayed standing. She didn't start with accusations. She started with dignity. "Before anybody opens their mouth," she said, "I want us all to remember there's a baby in this room. Not in the crib." She nodded toward the hallway where Auntie had already set up a small bassinet from a neighbor, like she believed in preparing for blessings, but in her body. Her eyes landed on Marcus. "So whatever truth you carry," she continued, voice calm and sharp, "you carry it gently." Marcus looked down. Brielle rolled her eyes like she couldn't help herself. Linda finally sat, stiffly, and folded her hands. Auntie turned to me. "Talia, speak." I took a slow breath. My palms were damp, but my voice came out steady. "I heard you," I said, looking directly at Brielle. "In the hallway. At the shower." Brielle's posture shifted. "What hallway?" "The one outside your bathroom," I replied. "When you told Kayla I was slow, and Marcus was leaving after the baby comes." Marcus flinched. Linda's head snapped up. "Leaving?" Marcus's mouth opened. Closed. I continued, still calm. "I recorded some of it." Brielle sat up straight. "You recorded me? Are you serious?" Denise sucked in a breath. Linda's lips pressed tight. Auntie Sharon didn't react. Only nodded once like she'd expected it. I reached into my purse slowly and pulled out my phone. My fingers shook just slightly as I clicked the audio file. For a second there was only static and muffled noise. Then Brielle's voice came through. Clear enough to make the room turn cold. "This is the easy part. She's slow. She's not going to do anything." Brielle's face went pale in a way I'd never seen before. Kayla's voice followed, faint but recognizable. Then Brielle again. "He's leaving after the baby comes. He's not going to look like the villain." Linda made a sound, small, wounded, like air escaping a balloon. Marcus's eyes squeezed shut. I stopped the recording. Silence fell heavy. You could hear Auntie Sharon's wall clock ticking, steady and unforgiving. Linda stood up so fast her chair scraped. "Marcus," she said, voice shaking now, "is this true?" Marcus finally looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed, and his face had that cornered look of a man who'd run out of lies. He didn't answer right away. He looked at Brielle. And that, more than anything, told me how deep my sister had put her hands in my marriage. Auntie Sharon saw it too. "Don't look at her," Auntie said, voice low. "Look at your wife." Marcus's gaze slid to me, and for a moment I saw something like remorse. Then he swallowed and said, "It's not what it sounds like." Brielle let out a sharp laugh. "Of course it's not. Y'all are being dramatic." Linda turned on Brielle so fast I almost didn't recognize her. Don't you dare, she snapped. Not in front of me. Brielle blinked, shocked. Excuse me. Linda stepped closer. You invited your sister's husband's, whatever she is, to your sister's baby shower. You sat there and smiled in that girl's face while helping a stranger plan her downfall. Brielle's eyes flashed with anger now. Don't act like you know everything, Linda. Auntie Sharon lifted her hand again, quiet authority. Enough. She turned to Marcus. Did you have an affair? Marcus's throat bobbed. And in that moment I realized something. I had spent weeks trying to prepare myself for this word. But when it was finally about to be said out loud in Auntie Sharon's living room, with sweet tea sweating on the table and my baby rolling gently in my belly, I still felt like the air was leaving me. Marcus's voice came out thin. I didn't mean for it to go that far, he said. I stared at him, my expression still but my insides shaking. Auntie Sharon's eyes narrowed. That's not an answer. Linda's voice cracked. Marcus. Yes or no? Marcus looked down at his hands. Then he whispered. Yes. The word landed in the room like a dropped plate. Denise put a hand over her mouth. Linda sank back into her chair, like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. Brielle's face twisted and she opened her mouth, maybe to defend herself, maybe to blame me, maybe to do what she always did when she was cornered. But Auntie Sharon beat her to it. Now, Auntie said, calm as a judge, we're going to hear the full truth, not the cleaned-up version. She looked at Brielle. And you, Brielle, you're going to explain why you thought you had the right to help destroy what you didn't build. Brielle's eyes flicked toward the door like she was thinking of leaving. And that's when I realized the next part was going to hurt worse than the confession. Because cheating was betrayal. But sister betrayal? That was a different kind of wound. Brielle didn't answer Auntie Sharon right away. She sat there with her chin lifted, lips pressed tight, eyes darting from face to face like she was calculating who still belonged to her. When she finally spoke, her voice was sharp, but underneath it I heard something thinner. Fear. You're acting like I put a gun to his head, she said, gesturing toward Marcus. He's a grown man. If he cheated, that's on him. Linda's head snapped up. Don't you dare, she said, voice trembling with anger. Don't you sit there and pretend you didn't help. Brielle scoffed. Help? I didn't help him cheat. Auntie Sharon's voice cut in, calm but steel-edged. Brielle, you called your sister slow. You told that girl he was leaving after the baby. That's not minding your business. That's management. Brielle's eyes flashed. I was talking. People talk. People talk, Auntie repeated, nodding slowly. But decent people don't strategize in hallways while a pregnant woman is opening gifts. I sat so still my body felt like it belonged to somebody else. My hands rested on my belly and my baby rolled gently, unaware of the wreckage happening around him. The contrast, his innocence against their schemes, made my throat burn. I looked at Brielle. How long? I asked quietly. Brielle blinked. How long what? How long have you been in my marriage? I said, my voice steady even as my heart thumped. How long have you been whispering in my husband's ear? How long have you been feeding a stranger information about me? Brielle's face tightened. You're being dramatic. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't lean forward. I just held her gaze. Answer me, I said. For a second, Brielle looked like she might laugh it off again. But then she glanced at Auntie Sharon. At the way Auntie stood there like a closed door. And she realized the room wasn't going to let her perform her way out of this. Brielle exhaled hard. It started months ago, she said, and her eyes slid away from mine. After you got pregnant. A cold pressure settled under my ribs. Months, I repeated. Marcus flinched at that word like it stung him too. Brielle continued, her voice turning defensive, like she was building a case. He was stressed. You were, tired all the time. You stopped coming around. You stopped answering calls. Everything was baby, baby, baby. Denise made a sound. She's pregnant, Brie. Brielle swung toward Denise. I know she's pregnant. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, she turned back to me, eyes bright now. I'm saying he felt alone, Talia. He felt like you didn't see him anymore. I stared at her, my mouth dry. So your solution, I said slowly, was to help him find someone who would see him? Brielle's jaw clenched. I didn't set him up. Auntie Sharon didn't move, but her tone changed, quiet, dangerous. Then explain Kayla at the shower. Explain that blanket. Explain your phone calls. Brielle's fingers tightened around the fabric of her skirt. Kayla is Marcus's coworker, she said. Like repeating it enough times would make it clean. She came to me first. She told me he was unhappy. Linda let out a short, disbelieving laugh. A coworker came to his sister-in-law? For what permission? Brielle's eyes cut to Linda. I'm not his sister-in-law. I'm Talia's sister. Linda's voice rose. Exactly. You were supposed to protect her. Brielle's voice rose too. And who protects me, Linda? Silence. That question hung in the air like smoke. Brielle swallowed, and for the first time her mask slipped enough for me to see the raw underneath. You think it's easy, she said, looking at me now, not at Auntie, not at Linda, at me. Watching you build a life. Watching you get the husband, the house, the baby, the good girl reputation. Everybody always looking at you like you're the one who deserves softness. My stomach turned. This wasn't about Marcus being lonely. This was about Brielle being jealous. I spoke carefully. So you decided I didn't deserve it anymore. Brielle's eyes filled, but her pride didn't let the tears fall. I decided you needed to stop thinking you were untouchable. Denise whispered. That's sick. Brielle snapped. Shut up, Denise. Auntie Sharon lifted a hand. Don't you talk to Denise that way in my house. Brielle's shoulders rose and fell with a harsh breath. Marcus came to me, she insisted, reaching for a new angle. He came to me complaining. I didn't force him to step out. I turned to Marcus then. My voice stayed calm, but inside me something ached, deep and heavy. Did you come to her? I asked. Marcus's eyes were wet now. He nodded once. Yeah, he whispered. I talked to her. About me? I asked. He looked down. About everything. A strange numbness spread through my chest. I waited until my voice wouldn't shake. And Kayla? Marcus swallowed. It started at work. She'd ask about you. About the pregnancy. He rubbed his palms together, like he wanted to scrub the story off his skin. She'd listen. I let out a slow breath. So you gave her our life. He shook his head quickly like he wanted to correct me, but he couldn't. Not honestly. Linda's voice broke. Marcus, how far did it go? Marcus's mouth opened. Closed. Auntie Sharon said. Don't lie. Lying is how this grew. Marcus's voice came out small. It was physical. Linda's eyes squeezed shut. A tear slipped out anyway. Denise looked away, jaw tight. I sat there, and it was like my body was trying to protect me by going quiet inside. Like my heart was wrapping itself in cloth. I asked the question that mattered to me most, the one I didn't want to ask because I already knew the answer could hurt in a different way. Did you bring her around my baby? I said, my hand rubbing my belly without realizing it. Did you touch me after you touched her? Marcus's face crumpled. Talia. Answer, Auntie Sharon said. Marcus's voice cracked. Yes. I closed my eyes for a moment. The room tilted, not physically but emotionally. Like the world had shifted to a new center, and I had to find my balance again. When I opened my eyes, Brielle was watching me, and for a second I saw regret on her face. But it was too late. Regret without repair is just another form of selfishness. Auntie Sharon spoke again, and her voice became the voice of consequence. Marcus, she said, you will not stay in that house with her tonight. Marcus straightened. Auntie, please. No, Auntie said, one word firm. You broke covenant. You don't get comfort while she's carrying pain. Linda wiped her face and nodded. He can come to my house, she said quietly, though it sounded like it cost her to offer. Marcus looked at me then, desperation in his eyes. Talia, I'm sorry. I swear I'm sorry. I can fix this. I studied his face, really studied it, and I realized something that made my throat tighten with a different kind of grief. He wasn't begging because he understood what he'd done. He was begging because the walls had finally come down and everybody could see. I turned to Brielle. And you, I said softly. You're not welcome around me right now. Not texts. Not calls. Not visits. Not checking on the baby. Nothing. Brielle's lips parted. Talia. No, I said, still calm. You don't get access to what you tried to ruin. Brielle's eyes filled again. I'm your sister. That's why it hurts, I replied. Auntie Sharon stepped closer to me, her hand resting on my shoulder. Talia, you're staying here tonight, she said. I'll make up the guest room. I nodded slowly because I knew if I went home with Marcus, I'd end up arguing until my blood pressure rose and my baby felt it. And I refused to let my child enter this world already carrying their mistakes. Marcus stood up, shaking his head like he couldn't accept it. So that's it. I looked up at him. It's not it, I said. It's the start of the truth. And the truth has consequences. Auntie Sharon pointed toward the door. Not cruel, just final. Go. Marcus hesitated, then grabbed his keys from the table like a man leaving a part of himself behind. Brielle stood too, her face tight with anger and shame. She opened her mouth like she wanted the last word. But Auntie Sharon's eyes stopped her cold. Brielle, Auntie said, if you have any sense left, you'll leave my house quietly and go sit with yourself. Brielle's shoulders sagged. She picked up her purse and walked out without looking at me again. The door closed, and the sound of it, soft, solid, felt like the end of one life. Auntie Sharon led me toward the hallway, and as I walked I finally felt the tremble in my knees. My body had been holding me up on pride and adrenaline. Now in the quiet I let my hand rest on my belly and whispered, We're okay. We're okay. Because I needed my baby to believe me. That night in Auntie Sharon's guest room, the quiet finally did what noise couldn't. It made space for the pain to walk all the way in. Auntie had laid out fresh sheets that smelled like sun-dried cotton, and she'd placed a glass of water on the nightstand like she already knew I'd wake up thirsty from holding back tears. The little lamp beside the bed cast a warm circle of light, soft enough to feel safe in. I lay on my side, knees slightly bent, one hand tucked under my belly the way I always slept when the baby got active. And then without warning my body started shaking. Not dramatic shaking. Not movie scene sobbing. Just quiet tremors, like my spirit was finally letting go of the fight it had been holding all day. I pressed my face into the pillow so I wouldn't make a sound, but Auntie still heard me. Auntie always heard what people tried to hide. The door creaked open. She didn't ask permission. She didn't need to. She sat on the edge of the bed and rubbed my back in slow circles the way she used to when I was little and had nightmares. Let it out, baby, she whispered. Your body been carrying too much. I feel stupid. I choked out, the words hot with shame. I feel played. Auntie leaned closer, her voice firm but tender. You feel betrayed. Don't name it stupid. Name it what it is. I swallowed hard. My own sister. Auntie's hand paused for 1 second, then continued. Your sister got a sickness in her soul, and she tried to make you her medicine. I turned my face toward her in the dim light. What if I can't forgive her? Auntie's eyes didn't flinch. Forgiveness is not a requirement for survival, she said quietly. And it's not the same thing as access. Those words settled in me like a blanket. Not soft but steady. I nodded, wiping my face with the back of my hand. I don't want my baby to feel this. Auntie reached down and placed her palm gently on my belly. He feels love. He feels you trying, she said. And that's what he's going to remember in his bones. When she finally stood to leave, she looked down at me and said, Tomorrow we handle practical. Tonight we let your heart breathe. The next morning Linda called me early. Her voice sounded tired, like she'd been crying too. Talia, she said, I'm so sorry. I sat at Auntie's kitchen table with a mug of tea warming my hands. The window over the sink let in soft light, and outside, a bird kept landing on the same fence post like it had business there. I don't even know what to say, I admitted. Linda exhaled. You don't have to say anything. I just need you to hear me. I raised him better than this. I closed my eyes. I believe you, I said. And I did, because Linda's hurt sounded real. But he still chose it. I know, she whispered. He's here. On my couch. And he thinks he's going to talk his way back like this is just a rough patch. I didn't answer right away. Linda continued, voice firmer now. I told him something last night, and I want you to know I meant it. If you decide you're done, I will not fight you. I will not guilt you. And I will not cover for him. My throat tightened. Thank you. There was a pause, then Linda asked carefully, Are you safe? Are you eating? Yes, I said. Auntie's watching me like a hawk. Linda let out a small sad laugh. Good. She should. Before we hung up, Linda said one more thing, soft but clear. And Talia, if you need help, diapers, a lawyer, a deposit, whatever it is, you tell me. That baby is my grandson. Marcus doesn't get to break things and still keep all the power. I stared down at my tea, watching the steam curl up like prayers. Okay, I whispered. Okay. After I hung up, Auntie slid a plate in front of me, eggs, toast, fruit. Eat, she said. I don't feel hungry. Auntie gave me that look. So I ate. Because survival is made of small obedient moments. By afternoon, word had started spreading. Not because I told it like gossip, but because when a marriage breaks, people feel the shift before they know the story. Denise texted me. People asking where Marcus is. Brielle telling folks you were overwhelmed and needed space. You want me to say anything? My jaw tightened. Even now, after everything, Brielle was trying to control the narrative. Trying to paint herself as the helpful sister, and me as the emotional pregnant woman who couldn't handle stress. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back. Tell them the truth but keep it clean. We're separated because Marcus was unfaithful. I'm focusing on the baby. That's all. Denise replied. Done. Proud of you. A few hours later, I got a message request from Kayla. My hands went cold when I saw her name. I didn't open it at first. I just stared at it like it might bite. Auntie Sharon noticed my face from across the room. Don't read it alone, she said, wiping her hands on a dish towel. If you're going to drink poison, don't do it in the dark. So I sat at the table and opened it while Auntie stood behind me, her presence a wall. Kayla's message was long, carefully written, full of I'm sorry, and I didn't mean to hurt you. But one line stuck out like a nail. Brielle told me you didn't appreciate Marcus. She said you were only with him for stability. I felt my stomach flip. Auntie leaned in and read over my shoulder. She made a soft sound, not surprise, more like disgust. Kayla kept going. Marcus told me he felt trapped and that after the baby he was going to do things the right way. I believed him. I see now I was used to. Used to. That part almost made me laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was the kind of sentence people say when they want their shame to sound like innocence. I handed the phone to Auntie. Auntie read it fully, then placed it face down on the table like she was setting down something dirty. You're not responding, she said. I swallowed. I want to. I know, Auntie replied. But your response won't heal you. It'll feed them. Silence is a boundary too. I nodded, though my throat ached with things unsaid. That evening Brielle called. I didn't answer. She called again. I didn't answer. Then she texted. You really doing this to me? After everything I've done for you? My thumbs hovered. My chest tightened. That old habit rose up. The habit of explaining myself, defending myself, softening my truth so Brielle could swallow it easier. Then I remembered her voice on that recording. She's slow. She's not going to do anything. I typed one message. 1. You did this to you. Don't contact me again unless it's with Auntie present. Then I blocked her. My hand shook as I did it. Not because I doubted myself. Because even the right decision can feel like grief. Over the next few weeks, life became quiet in a new way. Not peaceful at first. Just different. Marcus texted apologies. Some were sincere. Some were panicked. Some were angry when I didn't respond fast enough. He asked to come to doctor appointments. I said no, then later yes, with Linda present, because I wasn't interested in punishing him. I was interested in protecting myself. I met with the lawyer for an hour, just to understand my options. I didn't file that day, but I learned what power looked like on paper, and it steadied me. I started sleeping again. Not perfectly, but enough. I started eating again. Not because I wanted to, but because my son deserved a mother who kept her body strong even when her heart felt bruised. And one afternoon, sitting on Auntie Sharon's porch with the sun warming my legs and a glass of ice water sweating on the armrest, I felt something I hadn't felt since the shower. Relief. Not the relief of everything is fixed. The relief of knowing I wasn't living in a lie anymore. The baby rolled in my belly and I laughed softly, small and surprised. Auntie looked over from her rocking chair. What? I rubbed my stomach gently. He's moving like he's already got opinions. Auntie smiled. Good. Let him be strong. I leaned back, watching the street, watching the ordinary life of neighbors walking dogs and kids riding bikes. And I realized the world hadn't ended just because my marriage cracked. My story was still mine. And I was going to raise my son with a mother who chose truth, even when truth cost her comfort. A few days before my due date, Linda came by with a bag of baby supplies, diapers, wipes, little socks, and she hugged me carefully like she was afraid I'd break. "I'm not excusing him," she whispered, "but I'm here for you." I hugged her back and nodded. That matters. Because healing doesn't always come as a perfect apology. Sometimes it comes as support that doesn't ask you to pretend. And as for Brielle, I didn't hear her voice again for a long time. The silence was loud at first. Then it became holy. By the time my son arrived, I understood something I wish I'd learned before I ever saw that embroidered blanket. Betrayal doesn't always come like a storm. Sometimes it comes dressed in cream and gold, smiling for pictures, calling itself family. Marcus was in the delivery room only after we had clear rules, my auntie and his mother present, no private conversations, no pretending we were okay for the sake of appearances. When I held my baby for the first time, his skin warm and soft against my chest, I felt something settle in me that no apology could create. A kind of clarity. Because no matter what happened between adults, my child deserved a mother who didn't shrink to keep other people comfortable. He deserved a home where love wasn't mixed with secrets. I didn't rush to forgive my sister. I didn't rush to move on just to make the room feel lighter. I chose boundaries, I chose peace, and I chose truth one day at a time. And if you're listening to my story right now with that heavy feeling in your chest, I want you to hear me. You're not crazy for noticing what feels off. You're not too sensitive for asking questions. And you're not wrong for protecting yourself. Especially when you're carrying something precious, whether that's a baby, a dream, or your own heart. So let me ask you, from one woman to another, if you were in my shoes, would you have exposed it publicly like I did? Or would you have handled it quietly? Tell me in the comments. I read them. And if you want more real-life, emotional stories about betrayal, boundaries, and redemption, make sure you subscribe and stay with me. Because sometimes hearing the truth in someone else's story helps you find it in your own.